Hello, and thank you for joining our session, Performance for Distributed VMware View Virtual Desktop Deployments. My name is Eric Carter. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager at Riverbed, and in a few minutes we'll be joined by Chip Wang, our Manager of Technical Marketing, who will help us with a demo. What we want to do today is highlight a joint Riverbed and VMware branch office desktop solution. Our agenda today will cover the challenges of delivering virtual desktops out to remote locations, such as branch offices. We'll dive into some of the Riverbed performance solution and how these can be brought to bear in VMware View environments. We'll look at some of the advantages and some of the results that we're seeing, and then we'll go through some of our recommendations and design considerations, as well as point you to some additional resources, and then we'll close with a demo. In a recent study of VDI users, some of the top concerns around delivering virtual desktops were identified, and these are shown here. Now, this includes the cost of bandwidth required for the solution, the ability to deliver performance, the amount of data traversing the WAN, as well as simply ensuring reliable access. The data from the ESG study validates much of what we find in our experience of delivering successful virtual desktop deployments out to branch offices. WAN connectivity is key. If there's not enough bandwidth, and if there's high latency, meaning that the travel times for data to reach from the data center to the edge are very high, this can be a challenge. And then you couple that with the potential of WAN outages, which will essentially cease access to desktops during the time of those outages. This can all be very killer in terms of hampering the adoption of virtual desktop infrastructure. From a remote execution standpoint, VMware does offer something called local mode that gives some level of offline mobility, but this is often not suited to every environment. And also at the branch, when working with things like printers, these local peripherals or USB devices, remote execution across long distance can also be an issue. Then finally, one of the key areas that many organizations must look into is how to deliver branch services, things that are needed there locally with the users, and then as well look into the overall design for storage to ensure that when the highest desktop demands are taking place, that user performance is still at a level that meets or exceeds the user expectations. Now, the good news is that much of what we want to highlight for you today is focused on helping to solve these challenges together with VMware. Riverbed is very much focused on what it takes to deliver performance over distance. And as more and more of IT infrastructure is centralized, these consolidated resources are now farther and farther away from users. The consolidation of resources has helped organizations get better control of data and have also helped control costs and just build more agile infrastructures. But as we've been pointing out, when users are separated over a long distance from those applications and the data they need to do their jobs, we have created a new challenge. Now, Riverbed's flagship Steelhead product line delivers WAN optimization that helps ensure users at the edge get LAN-like performance to all of that consolidated data and the consolidated application. This solution, used with a combination of techniques, help to overcome low bandwidth challenges as well as latency challenges. Now, Steelhead appliances optimize the overall use of bandwidth by reducing the amount of data that flows back and forth. And here we use things like fine-grained deduplication technology as well as compression to reduce utilization of that WAN pipe up to 95%. Also, through the optimization of applications, Steelhead technology further reduces traffic by addressing the chattiness of application protocols. And by doing this, we can also significantly reduce the response time for applications for users of those applications in branch offices. What this combination of technologies does is to help ensure that consolidation efforts are a success from the perspective of protecting the branch user experience. Another key technology on the Steelhead appliance that helps enable optimization in these data center to branch computing environments is quality of service control. Now this includes the ability to automatically identify over 600 applications flowing across the WAN. Now while QoS has been a relatively common solution, Riverbed's enhanced control overcomes the challenge of otherwise having a low level of visibility to what's really coming in and out of the network. And when you don't have that visibility, as a result, you can unknowingly cause bottlenecks in the system. With fine-grained identification of those applications, the Riverbed solution enables you to apply policies that help intelligently prioritize traffic, such that latency-sensitive applications like voice traffic and like virtual desktop traffic get the appropriate treatment and don't suffer at the cost of less critical traffic. The QoS solution then helps to make room in that provides the ability to appropriately mete out bandwidth usage so that applications get the level of service that they need for optimal performance, and that you can deliver predictability to the flow of traffic, including our virtual desktop traffic. We've taken this same QoS technology and are using it to apply greater control to the PC over IP protocol that's used to deliver VMware View virtual desktops to users. Riverbed has worked in conjunction with Teradici, the company that created the PC over IP protocol, to identify at a very granular level the various types of activity that are encapsulated in the virtual channels of PC over IP data streams. With Riverbed QoS, it's possible to distinguish between things like keyboard and mouse movements, screen updates, and other types of traffic such that you can improve the user experience for View by both ensuring bandwidth but also by prioritizing appropriately. For instance, the QoS engine will ensure that activity like print or USB redirection does not starve our more important traffic of keyboard and screen traffic, right? We don't want it to interrupt the desktop user experience. This deeper understanding of the PC over IP virtual channels is unique to Riverbed and is a very useful tool in helping to ensure the success of View deployments. Taking all of these advantages, Riverbed Steelhead technology has the advantage of reducing overall traffic and congestion and making room for virtual desktop traffic on the wide area network, and of course effectively controlling all traffic, including PC over IP. One of the key challenges still with virtual desktops is the real-time nature of the application. As a result, when bandwidth is low and when there's latency or delay, the end user experience is impacted. It's with this challenge in mind that we began looking with VMware and how we can meet the challenge of delivering an optimal branch office desktop experience. Earlier this year at Riverbed, we launched two new products, the Steelhead EX and Granite. Steelhead WAN optimization technology has helped thousands of organizations to consolidate applications such as file servers, web servers, and mail servers, consolidate that back to the data center and have them used in remote locations with LAN-like performance. However, at the branch, there's typically still a lot of infrastructure that's there servicing those locations. What I'm referring to here are branch services such as print, DHCP, and those types of things. They still need to be there in these locations. But now with the Steelhead EX, these can all be consolidated right within the Steelhead appliance itself. The Steelhead EX runs a VMware vSphere hypervisor that can host these services as virtual machines. This is referred to as the Riverbed Virtual Services Platform, or VSP. This branch office box concept helps organizations to simplify the IT infrastructure at branch locations. So now we've eliminated a few of the resources that were otherwise required there at the edge, but now we still have storage services that are there, and probably along with that, backup and recovery. This same platform lets us consolidate now the storage and the remaining data back out to the data center, where they can be managed along with all the other corporate data and enterprise storage. What Granite enables you to do once consolidated is to project this data back out at the block level from your central site to the Granite Edge module on the Steelhead EX at the branch. Virtual machines in the branch running either directly on the steelhead or on a separate vSphere server can now leverage this centralized storage model. Granite ensures that both reads and writes occur quickly in the remote office, and any new data writes that are made there are committed back to the central storage so that IT has custody even of newly created data. Granite serves that data to the edge, even though in many cases it will be possibly thousands of miles away over a highly latent WAN. How we do this with Granite is by implementing file system awareness, and by understanding these underlying file systems, let's say NTFS and VMFS, we can do predictive prefetching of data across the WAN, even helping us to boot virtual machines on the order of minutes, as opposed to otherwise simply not being able to do that over such a long distance. And subsequent boots are even faster, and subsequent access of data even faster, because everything is then cached locally where it is accessed at LAN speeds. The Granite solution itself is delivered with two components. The first is Granite Core. Granite Core sits in the data center and connects to the storage area network, and then will mount storage LUNs on behalf of the branch location. It will then project that storage out to the branch. Granite Edge is a software option on the Steelhead EX device and is the module that communicates with Granite Core and will present an iSCSI storage target in the branch, which is then used by virtual machines there to support customer applications that are needed there locally. Granite Edge caches the working set of data. It delivers this LAN access performance that's required by typically write-intensive type of applications. Granite Edge enables fast cold reads and fast cold writes, which means essentially that applications do get fast local access, and beneath the covers, all new data is streamed back to the data center where IT does get full control. Together with VMware, we began looking at how we can use this same Steelhead EX and Granite technology to meet the challenge of delivering an optimal branch office virtual desktop experience while maintaining what IT wants, and that is centralized management and control. Now, in a typical VDI deployment, you have View clients at a branch office communicating with virtual desktops back at the data center. There's a View Manager at the data center that integrates users, desktops, and vSphere servers in the central location. And you would typically have a large storage array there where all your desktop virtual machines are stored. When a client logs in at the branch, a desktop request is sent to the View Connection Manager, and a desktop is provisioned at that point. Once the desktop is identified, PC over IP traffic is then initiated between the client and the branch, our picture here at the left, and then the virtual desktop at the data center on the right. Now, as more users log in, you end up with more and more PC over IP traffic across that wide area network. The Steelhead appliances, as I mentioned earlier, can apply bandwidth reduction to all the other traffic going back and forth to help make more room. We can also help prioritize that PC over IP traffic and the real-time parts of that traffic to help make sure that interactive traffic is getting the fairest treatment possible. However, the further away from the data center you are, the real challenge will continue to be that interactive traffic and getting it back and forth in time. The Granite solution provides an alternate deployment model for VDI. By taking the desktops that belong to the remote office and using Granite to then project that storage LUN that lives in the data center out to the branch for use, you now have a local experience in the branch, yet the data actually lives in the data center and is managed in the data center, meaning it's protected there, it's backed up there. So now if we think about the steps to getting a desktop, the user will request that desktop from the View Manager, and then it will connect and communicate with the vSphere server at the branch, and that desktop is served up locally. Now all of that PC over IP traffic is completely isolated to the branch location. The user experience is a true local experience. and then all other traffic going to centralized application in the data center will be accelerated by those Steelhead WAN optimization appliances. So now with Steelhead EX and Granite, even in the event of a WAN outage, user desktops will remain active, remain usable, and will help to ensure that those branch office workers are in fact productive. Really, in the end, users win, and IT also wins in the sense that they achieve centralized management and security. And one of the key objectives in the first place of deploying VMware View was to make sure that all of this data was centrally managed, centrally protected, and under the custody of IT in that location. If we look once again at our areas of concern, we now have advantages delivered via the combination of VMware View with Riverbed technology. And we start with WAN connectivity. WAN connectivity is really no longer a factor in performance. Things like latency and bandwidth don't impact the virtual desktop experience any longer. And a WAN outage itself does not stop the user desktops. Performance is now local, and outside of the virtual desktop traffic, all the other applications are also accelerated across the WAN via Steelhead WAN optimization technology. With the desktops now being local, the View sessions are all executed on the LAN in the branch office, and things like printer traffic are local and are fast. And IT gets to maintain the centralized provisioning, the centralized management, and the centralized security in this model. And then finally, from our design standpoint, the same technology, Riverbed's VSP solution, helps deliver local branch services. And then this new architectural approach delivers advantages when it comes to the storage design as well. The Granite solution absorbs peak periods such as boot storms and effectively smooths out bursts that would otherwise hit the back-end SAN. And finally, because IT has central control of the storage of the data and of the virtual machines themselves, branches are effectively consolidated in the data center, and that provides a built-in disaster recoverability for those offices. If we look distinctly at the Riverbed technology, both Steelhead standalone as well as Steelhead and Granite together, here we provide some recommendations in terms of applicability and size. WAN optimization can be helpful across the board. In the context of modest use of VMware View, let's say on a T1 WAN link in our example here, where the number of desktops are up to 20, and the latency on the WAN link is somewhere in the range up to 70 milliseconds, Steelhead will improve the VDI experience and will help to deliver LAN-like performance. A good deal of data reduction is here as well. If you consider that View desktop traffic along with other types of traffic will be flowing back and forth, the Steelhead WAN optimization solution will be very well suited in this range, and typically looking at the user profile of those who are office-based information workers. The combination of Steelhead EX plus Granite is very well suited to heavier workloads and will scale up to a much larger number of branch users. Our recommendation here is up to about 100 users, and that's going to vary based on the size of the Steelhead EX plus Granite appliance that's leveraged. In this case, the WAN size and the WAN latency is very much taken out of the equation, as I had mentioned earlier. On latent links even up to 700 millisecond round trip times, users are still going to experience LAN-like performance. And as I mentioned, in fact, the WAN can be down and desktops will stay connected during those periods. Here we target the Granite-based solution at power users of VMware View virtual desktops, so those with a bit heavier usage of the platform. Let's take a slightly more detailed look at some of the design considerations of the VMware Branch Office desktop solution when featuring the Steelhead EX plus Granite. The goal is to deliver a scalable solution that provides granular control for each location. So when leveraging the Granite solution to project desktops to the branch office, when you're configuring your pools, you will create one pool per branch office or a pool for similar sized offices. For executing recomposition, scripts will provide automated pool management across all branches. So let's take a closer look at the differences in this process as compared to provisioning and patching locally versus a distributed view environment with Granite. In the original workflow, typically you'll provision first by creating a golden image snapshot, And then you'll select the pool to patch and provision the desktops using the snapshot as a reference. When recomposing the desktops, you would patch the golden image and create an updated snapshot, and then use this new image as a reference to update the pool. How this changes with the Steelhead plus Granite workflow is, for provisioning, you first create a golden image, then this image is cloned out to the Granite data store at the branch location, where you then create your snapshot in the branch. You then select the branch pool to patch and provision the desktops using the snapshot you created there on Granite as a reference. When recomposing desktops, you will perform the same patch process for the golden image, but then you clone that golden image to the Granite data store again at the branch, and there you'll again create your snapshot. The update to the pool then will happen from this snapshot. So this will give you an idea of how this process will work, leveraging the ability to project storage from the data center out to the edge. Once we have everything configured, we wanted to kind of give you an idea of what kind of performance you can expect, both from a branch user perspective, as well as we'll look a little bit at the storage aspect of this. We did some testing. Our test topology is shown here. It's View 5.1. We were using approximately 300 gigabyte LUN in the data center, T1 link, and using 30 link clone desktops out at the branch serviced by Granite. What we did was look at what was the performance like when everything was in the data center. This means the desktop, the users, everything. Then we looked at what the experience was like doing a View deployment with PC over IP over a wide area network with no optimization. Then finally we looked at what was that performance like when we combined Granite along with the WAN-based solution. And in fact, in each of these cases, you can see that Granite delivers effectively LAN performance in those branch locations. So whether we're looking at the video quality compared to a LAN-based experience versus a WAN-based experience, we really were able to deliver high-fidelity video there in the branch. Things like reading email, things like modifying PowerPoints. Where over the WAN, you can see there that the amount of time that it takes was significantly increased. Once we have implemented the Steelhead EX plus Granite solution, we bring that back to a full LAN-like experience. I also mentioned a little bit about storage considerations. One of the things that we observed is that because the activity with the desktops, including boot storms, was happening from a branch perspective, if we take a look back at our storage area network, the IOPS requirements or the performance requirements there on that centralized storage area network were significantly reduced. From a boot storm perspective, here we were booting approximately 30 desktops, and when we did that across the wide area network, first of all, only about 25 were able to connect using that particular WAN bandwidth and latency. And you can see the IOPS performance there, 833 ops. When we booted from Granite at the edge, that was significantly reduced on the right side down to 343. From a read perspective, even more dramatic, 0 from a boot from Granite Edge, and that's because everything has been pre-populated and users are checking out their desktops locally. Back at the data center on the WAN itself, however, when there was no optimization, when there was no Granite, we had a significant number of IOPS during that boot storm period. And then on steady state, sort of day-to-day operation, you can see there's also an advantage both from a write as well as a read perspective. Now in summary, in the before picture, VDI at branch offices was often constrained because of bandwidth, constrained because of latency, and just overall poor performance in the face of that. And in the after picture, by implementing Steelhead and Granite, we really help solve that problem. Execution is all local. We're not pulling the virtual desktop across the WAN any longer. That means it's local LAN performance. Bandwidth costs can go down. Storage costs, as we just looked at, can be much more manageable in the data center. We don't need to architect for as high a performance. And then even during disconnections of the WAN, We continue to operate, so there's an advantage of users continuing to be productive, and we maintain all of the benefits you were after in the first place with VDI, and that is manage desktops centrally, secure those desktops centrally, and make sure that everything is stored there safely in your data center. And finally here, before we move to our demo, just let me point you to some additional resources. Here on the screen, of course, visit vmware.com/solutions/desktop. You can get information about the branch office desktop solution there and all of the offerings with VMware View. Visit us at Riverbed, riverbed.com. You can go to riverbed.com/VMware to get some very specific information about VMware, and then from a product perspective where you can get information on Steelhead and on Granite and all of the Riverbed products, go to riverbed.com/products. And with that, I will now hand over the screen to Chip, who will take you through an actual demo. Thank you.
In this demo, we're going to show the performance of a traditional VMware View deployment in a WAN environment. Then, we'll show the performance of the same deployment with the added benefit of the Riverbed Granite solution. The topology we're simulating is a branch off in New York connecting back to a data center in San Francisco, which has about 80 milliseconds of round-trip latency. The branch office is using public internet with VPN to connect back to the data center and have some degrees of packet loss. First, we will show the performance of traditional method deploying View. Then we'll show the performance with the Riverbed solution added. In this setup, we have two pools created. The first pool is deployed in the traditional manner without adding the Riverbed Granite solution. We will log into this pool first and run some operations to observe the performance. Due to the constraints of the WAN, the view session is rather choppy and for some workloads almost unusable. Now we are going to log in the pool deployed with the Riverbed Granite solution and look at the difference in performance. As you can see, with the Riverbed Granite solution, true LAN performance can be achieved across the wide area network. With the Riverbed Granite solution, latency and bandwidth are no longer concerned and allows VMware View to be deployed in any branch office environment.